Ghostbusters, playing at 7:30.
Don't do it.
Don't die. Don't drive.
Alright.
Don't stop.
Don't sing.
Don't breathe. Hey everyone, I'm Dennis Stack,
And I'm Nate Fischer.
and we are Cinema Buffs bringing you our review of Don't Breathe. Alright, so here we are, Nate, reviewing our third horror movie of this summer, and
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that you and I have different palettes when it comes to horror.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like, for instance, our first horror movie we reviewed this summer was The Conjuring 2.
Yes.
Nate enjoyed it more than I did.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, next one was Lights Out. You also enjoyed it, but not nearly as much as I did.
No, you liked it a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, so once again, it's just kind of interesting to see when these horror movies come up, if it's going to be dividing like the last two have been, or if we're actually going to agree on one.
It is, and the content of the past two were more ghost stories. They were more supernatural, and this one isn't. This one, I don't know if it's even classified as a horror movie. I would call it more of a suspense thriller.
Yeah,
if anything.
definitely. The director, Fede Alvarez, he directed the Evil Dead remake, which we both enjoyed.
For a remake, I think it stood on its own as a really great film.
Yeah, it definitely holds up. And with this one, it wasn't like how you said, supernatural. Also, Evil Dead's very supernatural, but this
Yeah.
was like a very tight thriller. I mean, it all takes place in this one house, except
Yeah.
for the expositional scenes.
Yeah.
But this plot, and if you're not familiar with the movie, these people break into a man's house to rob him. And it turns out this man is blind.
Yeah.
But he's also like an ex-special forces type.
Yeah. He
So-
lost his sight in the war.
Right, and he discovers that they're in there, and he traps them in the house, and he's hunting them down. He can't see, and they can't make a sound. So I think that as far as like the plot, there was very little dialogue in big chunks of this movie, and it worked really well. And
Yeah.
I think that lends to a compliment to Fede Alvarez's direction style.
I agree. I thought this was such a tightly directed film. Even the exposition for the characters leading up to the situation in the house was enough for me to know
Yeah.
their motivations and who they are.
Right.
You don't need that much in this type of film. You want to get to the suspense. And I like that they did. They didn't waste any time.
Yeah, and these characters, the acting in this movie is pretty good. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nothing, nobody's standing out, nobody's exceptional, but nobody's bad in any of the
No.
roles. I think that
It's all believable.
yeah, the acting was very adequate, and the characters, they had their motivations and everything, and it was enough for me. But they're not, they're not like one-dimensional characters, but they're not groundbreaking characters.
Totally.
Girl who wants to, run away from home, a boy who reluctantly gets into trouble because he likes a girl.
Yeah.
We've seen these characters before, but just never in a situation like this.
Yeah, and this is a unique situation, and they did it great service. What I liked about this is that the director covered his bases. There's reason behind. These aren't stupid people. The characters that are trying to rob this guy, they're pretty professional, actually. They
Right.
covered a lot of the bases of how you would rob someone, taking your shoes off, putting a blanket on, the fence to climb over, dampening all the sounds you can to get in and get out unharmed. And they also cover the bases legally.
Right.
Not having a firearm on them
Yeah,
or
yeah.
things like that. They don't want it. They want to get in the least amount of trouble.
If they get in any trouble at all.
What did you think of the villain? I mean, this is what the movie's all about, is them getting caught off guard by this blind guy. So what did you think of him?
Yeah, I thought Stephen Lang did a great job, and I wouldn't call this like a transformative performance where it's like you don't even recognize it's him. But there's enough there where like I had to point it out to Nate. He asked who Stephen Lang was, who the guy who played it, and I pointed out, oh, it's Quaritch from Avatar, and like that was just like, oh wow, he was so good in it. Like you didn't get that vibe from him, especially given that his character was ex-military. He wasn't like macho or anything. He was
No.
kind of crazy actually.
Yeah, kind of crazy, and still you could tell that this guy was a force, but like you said, he wasn't this like humongous beast of a man. He seemed very almost like fragile but tough at the same time.
Right. We won't spoil anything for the
No.
movie as always, but they give his motivations for what he does and why he does it, and it is very believable.
It is.
It's not like, oh, this made him a psycho. Oh, brother, here we go again. No, it's like, yeah, that would drive somebody insane and would leave him to a life of solitude and
Yeah.
recluse like that.
Especially after being at war and dealing with all that and then coming back to that. So I think that his motivations were just, but at the same time, obviously, he is the antagonist. Like, this guy is
you're
off
rooting
his
for the
rocker a little bit. But I think that he just, I like that he knew the layout of the house, that even though he's blind, he kind of has the advantage over these characters. And a big part of the trailer is when he turns all the lights out. I'm glad they didn't spend too much time with that. That was a sequence, not the movie.
I thought this movie was paced very well.
I did
throughout.
too. Yeah.
And like just when you thought like they were starting to get a lull, I mean there wasn't really room for lulls in this movie because they're in the house the entire time. The guy's chasing them the entire time.
Yeah,
there's no like cool down moment where you get some character revelations. Like no, it's intense throughout.
And there's really direct influence. I found a lot of direct influence from other horror movies and other just movies in general in this that paid really good service to those films.
This isn't a classic pure horror film. It's more of a very tense thriller. But there are good scares in there. Well, I thought the scares were good.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I thought there was very scary moments, but like you said, a better word is tense. There's very tense moments. I did feel that heart in my throat situations, and I felt like you said before, the pacing was just fantastic, and there was some it's a little cheap jump scares, but that's okay. I don't mind jump scares. I don't mind just a boo moment here and there.
Yeah, that's fine.
But the relentlessness was there. Once they get in the house, it doesn't really let you breathe all that much.
Exactly. Yeah, there was definitely a few moments there where I was just like tense, like white knuckle, just like waiting for the big scare and it passes.
Yeah,
and it's just tension is throughout this movie.
Yeah, and it never took you out of it because the justification of why these characters are going upstairs, why these characters are going downstairs, it's none of that like, don't do that, you idiot. Like, they have to. They're just being bested by this villain. So that never took me out where I was getting frustrated with him because honestly, it's a hopeless situation. It just is. And he pits him in it.
And in fact, there's parts where they get inventive and I'm like, oh wow, I never really think to do that. Let's go into any gripes. Anything you didn't like about this?
Just not much. There was like here and there was times where I didn't quite understand. There was a decision or two where I was like, couldn't they have done that? They would show me something and I'm like, I feel like they could have done that, but maybe in the heat of the panic they didn't.
Right.
And sometimes this is a very grounded and I think realistic type of film, and there was times where I was just like, okay, probably wouldn't happen, but it's pretty cool, so I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
So by no means is it perfect, but I mean, what did you think?
Yeah. I mean, the movie has its faults. They're very few and far between. But for me personally, I just didn't think that I feel like the ending was just a little bit spoiled in the beginning. It's like they do that thing where they take a shot from the ending.
Yeah.
And then...
That's a good point. I mean, I felt like that was a little unnecessary.
Right. I feel like, there just could have been a better way to grab the attention of the audience from the get with that opening shot.
Let's put a score to it. What do you think?
Yeah, like I said, very tense. If you're going in expecting a pure horror movie, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a very tense thriller that has scares, but just also keeps you riveted throughout, this is the movie to go to. And, yeah, sure, I have my few minor gripes, but I'm going to go pretty high. I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10.
Wow. Yeah, that is pretty high. Well, I agree with you, essentially. I mean, I think that this movie probably was the most solid horror movie I've seen this year. I mean, The Conjuring was up there. This is just a different type of horror movie, and so well done. Can't wait to see what this director does in the future. Not quite 8.5, I'm going 8, but still, you like horror, see this movie. All right, everyone, that's our review for Don't Breathe. What did you guys think of the film? Please leave all your comments below, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the support.
Yeah, and be sure you check us out next week for Labor Day weekend. We're actually going to take a load off and bringing you a drunken review as we review the classic bad movie, The Room.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, so check us out next week. And don't you forget, guys,
there's no place like the theater.